It's a gut-wrenching fear for every parent when a child goes missing. The sudden disappearance of a 19-year-old Colorado girl prompting a massive police search.
I fell in love with her, man. Fell for her hard.
But right after they separate, Jesse says something weird and completely out of character happens.
Tried texting her, I tried calling her, left her some messages on Facebook.
I don't want anybody to hurt her. I just want her to home safe.
If she's out there somewhere, to please come home to us. We need her. Everybody needs her.
But a vigilante investigation leads to a shocking discovery.
Yes, I'd like to confess to him.
Investigators never found her body.
Welcome to Buell School, where the only thing more twisted than the crime itself is me, your artificial host, Maddie. I'm your guide on this journey through the dark and mysterious world of crime. Today's story is about the bond between siblings and the chilling events that led to one woman's disappearance. It's a story that will make you question the motives of those closest to you and the lengths they'll go to in order to keep their secrets. So sit tight, grab a snack, and let's dive into this real-life thriller. In a small town, namely Westminster in Colorado, there was a young girl named Lea Porter. She was born in 1994 with a built-in best friend, her brother Maxx. They were each other's confidant, support system, and closest companion. From a young age, Lea loved to dress up in costumes and create skits. She would often convince her big brother to join her in the performances. They had a special bond, one that only siblings who become friends can have. Lea and Maxx were inseparable. They shared everything from their interests to their circle of friends. They were each other's rock, and their bond only grew stronger as they went through high school together. When Maxx went off to college to study massage therapy, Lea decided to follow in his footsteps and pursue the same major. At first, college life seemed to be going well for Lea, but things started to take a turn for the worst for Lea once Maxx graduated and moved to California for work. Without her best friend and security blanket, Lea began to spiral. Lea decided to drop out of college with a plan of moving to Denver. Maxx and their mother worried about the direction Lea's life was heading in and the man she said she was going to be living with. That man was Jesse Mine, a 38-year-old tattoo artist. Lea moved in with him and he introduced her to. Her friend Mallory Nixon said that it got bad right away and Lea became addicted. Lea tried to cope with the loneliness of being away from her family and disappointment from not being enrolled in school anymore. Lea confided in Maxx about her, which scared her older brother. He warned her about the dangers of her actions, but also wanted to remain supportive because she needed him more than ever. Her mother, Renee Jackson, also noticed a complete change in her behavior and worried about her daughter's well-being. But if anybody didn't like the fact that Lea and Jesse were dating, they didn't have to fear for long. Jesse Mine broke up with Lea about 6 months into their relationship and moved to the East Coast, leaving her with no place to live, a bad addiction, and feeling as if she had no future. That's when an old classmate named Christopher Waide came into Lea's life. This is important, so make sure you pay attention. Good old Chris gave off the impression that he was going to help Lea get off and provide a place for her to stay. Waide didn't seem like a terrible guy. He was studying criminal justice. He wanted to be a police officer for Christ's sakes. Even still, Maxx heard about this and knew of Waide. He was skeptical about his relationship with his sister. He didn't fit the mold of someone Lea would hang out with, let alone date. However, whatever his intentions, Waide portrayed himself as Lea's savior. Despite her brother's concerns, Lea decided to live with Waide and started a new chapter of her life. Little did she know that this new chapter would be her last. In the days leading up to her disappearance, Lea was trying to kick her and was attending Narcotics Anonymous meetings. She was also looking for a place to stay in Denver and was asking friends for help. On June 3rd, 2014, things began to get ugly. Maxx and Renee first realized that Lea was missing when they were unable to reach her in calls and texts when unanswered.
I knew there was something wrong right away because I couldn't get a hold of her. It was just days of calling back and calling, call my mom, and told her there's something wrong.
As Maxx and Renee realized missing, they frantically try to reach her on her phone, but she doesn't answer. They reach out to her friends, but no one has seen or heard from her. Maxx and Renee go to the police and file a missing persons report. But there are no leads or clues as to where Lea could be. With all those dead ends, most people would have given up. But there was one last angle that hadn't been investigated. Based on cell phone records, the police can see that one of the last people Lea spoke with was Jesse.
Where is
The police question him, and he tells them that Lea had recently broken up with him and was upset.
It's police hammer Jesse, and he admits to some rough times.
It's like the biggest fight we ever had.
You guys arguing or just screaming? No, not hitting each other, just screaming at each other. We would fight about cheating on each other.
He claims that the last time he saw her was in a motel parking lot near Denver where they said goodbye to each other.
Despite the breakup, he still had plans to marry Lee in the future.
I told her when I left that if she got help, if she got clean, then I would love to come back and marry her.
He tells police that he was headed to his parents' house in Maryland, while Lee went off to Denver to crash with friends. The police believe Mine's story. As they investigate further, they discover another name in Lee's call history prior to her disappearance. They learn that Lee had also been in contact with Christopher Waide, who was coincidentally the last person she had lived with. Waide told her that Lee had received a message late that night and was picked up by someone in a white truck. That was the last time he ever saw her. Yeah. Maxx and Renee knew he wasn't being truthful. Later, Waide claimed in a television interview that Lee had left his house in the middle of the night and he hadn't seen her since.
Overall, she seemed pretty depressed, and while she was smiling, it didn't really go to her eyes. So that kind of was weirding me out to see her like that. She said she was tired and she just wanted to crash, so I said okay. And I found some of her and confronted her about it that night. Then shortly afterwards, she took off. And I didn't really think much of it. I thought she was just angry at me because I was playing the part of a concerned friend.
He started pleading for help in finding her around town and even wrote several posts on Facebook raising awareness of her disappearance. Oddly enough, everybody learned that Waide had an obsession with tarot cards. He even told police that he had performed a tarot card reading on the night of Lee's disappearance. He claimed that the cards had told him to let her go. You're smart. Do you believe that nonsense? It seems to me that Waide was using them tarot cards as a tactic to mislead and distract the police from his true actions.
Earth, fire, water, spirit. Pentacles. The deck could be saying about some of the perceptions of me, or it could be just indicating that there's a sense of paranoia about it.
Maxx had always had a nagging suspicion that something was off about Waide's story. Waide had always been a strange and shady character, and Maxx couldn't shake the feeling that he knew more than he was letting on. Determined to uncover the truth, Maxx decided to take matters into his own hands. He arranged a meeting with Waide, pretending to be on friendly terms but secretly recording their conversation. As soon as Waide started speaking, Maxx knew that he had hit the jackpot. The man's voice was filled with a false sense of sorrow, but beneath that facade, Maxx could hear the unmistakable sound of guilt.
Chris, we just really need to know, man.
I know.
Look at me right in my eyes. Dude, where is she?
I don't know where she is
right
now.
You know what happened.
I can tell you.
We can tell you.
I can tell you.
I know.
Where is she?
Waide stammered and stumbled through his story, trying to account for Lee's disappearance.
And then it went back and forth like 10, 20 times. I know, no, I don't. You know, no, I don't.
Chris, please. They're gonna find out, man. They're gonna find out eventually. It's gonna eat you up. They're gonna know what happened.
You know it's the right thing to do.
I know.
I won't hold grudges. I won't hold it to you, man.
We will forgive
I will forgive you.
Okay.
You tell me right now what happened to my sister. You know what happened to my sister.
Yes, you have every right to be angry with me for lying to you, and
I'm not angry with you.
Yeah.
You're about to tell me where my sister is. Tell us right now. Start talking, please.
I'm trying to find. I know. And
Just start letting it out, man. I know it's hard. You gotta let it out right now. I just need to know.
okay, the first part of my story was right. She did text me and asked to come over because she was feeling really depressed. We went out and for a while we were talking.
He pressed and prodded, looking for any inconsistencies in Waide's account, and before long, the truth came tumbling out.
And eventually he cracked. I turned, grabbed her, and stepped forward and twisted her around so that her body was in between me and the knife. Then I placed my hand at her throat. I didn't start squeezing until after she kept going. I told her,
How long did you squeeze her throat? Until what happened?
I thought that her muscles would relax when she went unconscious, and that I could gradually move the knife away and let her go and let her regain consciousness, but that didn't happen.
She wouldn't try to stab you, Gary. She would never try to do that in a blind second.
I know you won't believe me, but I will be turning myself in to the police. I will tell them...
No, you're going to jail right now. You're going to prison right now.
Maxx felt a cold wave of fury wash over him. Before he knew it, he had lunged across the table and punched Waide square in the face. With the confession recorded, Maxx quickly called the police, and Waide was arrested and charged with murder. Maxx couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction at finally getting the justice that his sister deserved, and couldn't help but take a moment to enjoy the sight of Waide being led away in handcuffs. It seems that Christopher Waide had a history of being a suspicious character before Lea Porter's disappearance. Waide's criminal justice teacher, Robert Wells, expressed concern that Waide may have learned how to commit the murder in his class. Wells stated that Waide always pulled straight A's in all of his classes and was his favorite pupil, but was horrified to learn that he may have unwittingly taught Waide how to commit a more perfect murder. Waide had also been discharged from the army after telling psychiatrists he had fantasized about breaking into houses and raping and murdering women in high school. A police search of Waide's apartment also uncovered illicit photos of humans that hadn't reached adulthood on his computer. Plus, this guy had a duffel bag full of women's underwear in his closet, as well as a lot of blood on the floor, which Waide tried to clean with bleach. Christopher Waide was the epitome of a depraved and disturbed individual, a true sociopath who probably would have ended up committing heinous crimes regardless of his criminal justice studies. He was a manipulator, a liar, and a monster who deserved no sympathy or leniency, just a lifetime behind bars to contemplate the gravity of his actions. The trial of Christopher Waide began on a somber note, as the courtroom heard opening statements from the prosecution, who outlined the evidence they had collected against Waide, including DNA evidence found on his mattress and the duffel bag of women's underwear discovered in his closet. The defense attempted to paint Waide as a victim of circumstance, highlighting his military service and mental health issues, but the jury was not swayed. Over the course of the trial, the court heard testimony from Lea Porter's loved ones, including her mother Renee and brother Maxx, who both spoke of their devastation at her loss and her frustration with the justice system. Maxx, in particular, was vocal in his condemnation of Waide, calling him a monster and a coward in his testimony. The prosecution also called several experts to the stand, including forensic specialists who detailed the DNA evidence linking Waide to Porter's murder. They also called that criminal justice professor who discussed Waide's previous research on those illicit images and videos of sex featuring younger humans and sex trafficking, which he had done as a student. In the end, the jury found Waide guilty of second-degree murder and of a child, and he was sentenced to 48 years in prison. Renee and Maxx were in attendance at the sentencing, and while they expressed relief that Waide would be held accountable for his actions, they also expressed disappointment that the plea deal meant that he may be eligible for parole in just a few decades. Unfortunately, Lea Porter's body has never been found, despite extensive search efforts. The Adams County District Attorney's Office stated that the decision to pursue a plea agreement with Christopher Waide was partly based on the fact that Porter's body was never located. The Porter family continues to grieve and hope for closure with the discovery of Lea's remains. In the years following the trial, Renee and Maxx have advocated for victims of similar crimes, speaking out against plea deals and pushing for harsher sentences for murderers. They also established a scholarship in Lea's name to help young people in need, and have made it their mission to ensure that their beloved daughter's memory will never be forgotten. And there you have it, the tragic story of Lea Porter and her killer, Christopher Waide. I hope you found this video informative and interesting. As for me, I'll be here on the channel bringing you all the latest true crime stories, courtroom videos, and police body cam footage that will keep you on the edge of your seat. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the Buell School squad, because let's be real, who doesn't love a good true crime story? And if you're feeling extra generous, leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of the video, or even better, what you want to see me cover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.